It's Friday, August 9th, 2024. And of course, there's a lot of things happening in the world. So we'll be getting to a discussion about those. And all along those lines, Japan Prime Minister Fumio Kishida has canceled a trip as scientists urge preparations for a possible megaquake. So a magnitude 5.3 earthquake hit Tokyo after Japan issued their megaquake advisory. So definitely that's something that is going on in the world as people are paying attention to that and its impact on the environment and all along those lines. One of Ukraine's toughest and fastest brigades has joined the invasion of Russia, and Russia declares a federal level emergency in Kursk amid the Ukrainian incursion. So Moscow is rushing to send troops as Ukrainian attack on Kursk tests the Kremlin. So that is something else going on as Ukraine is taking the battle into Russia. And Biden and leaders of Qatar and Egypt plan a final ceasefire proposal. So U.S. and other frustrated mediators are calling on Israel and Hamas to resume Gaza talks. So that's something else that is going on. As in Israel, the negotiators are to fly out next week to finalize the framework of a hostage deal. So it does look like those talks are set to resume and all along those lines. So that's good news. And new artifacts found in Holy Grail of shipwreck that sank 3 centuries ago with billions of dollars in treasure. So 6 of the biggest shipwreck treasures ever found. So San Jose galleon artifacts found on Colombian coast shipwrecked. So definitely that is something that was going on off of the South American coast and all along those lines. And Ukraine says about 20,000 people must be evacuated from the border areas and all along those lines as both sides brace for escalation as Ukraine pushes further into Russia. So furious battles are underway. Kursk residents are calling on Putin for help after the Ukrainian incursion. So that particular war is now in day 892. So that is a little bit more than 2 years, get ready to head into almost its third year, and all along those lines. Definitely, Ukraine launches a massive drone attack or drone strike on Russia's Lebetsk region as cross-border attacks rage on. So that's something going on there, and I'm sure that Sasha will be talking more about that on our Ukraine, Russia, China show that'll be coming our way at 11 o'clock. Democratic Senator Bob Casey blasts Biden for leaving Mark Fogel in Russia, and definitely after this prisoner swap, the Politico is saying that some folks are reporting, don't forget about Belarus and Shakanovska after Shakanaso says after the prisoner swap snub. So he was definitely just saying, don't forget about Belarus. So definitely that's something going on, that prisoner swap took place, and folks are looking at that and seeing how that might even impact the elections and everything. Everything is legitimate. Israeli leaders have defended soldiers accused of rape, so that's something else going on. So Palestinian deaths in Israel custody are fueling allegations of abuse, and the State Department is calling for Israel to investigate allegations of horrific sexual abuse of Palestinian detainees. So that's something else that folks will be paying attention to as well. President Maduro has suspended X social network in Venezuela for 10 days after a feud with the billionaire Elon Musk and everything. So if you over there in Venezuela, you might not be getting X for about 10 days. And an Iraqi teen has been arrested in Vienna after the Taylor Swift terror attack plot was thwarted. So a third teenager has been arrested over the fourth Taylor Swift concert attack in Vienna. So they have arrested another teenager in that particular case and all along those lines. And Muhammad Yunus, the Nobel laureate charged with restoring peace in Bangladesh, is definitely taking the helm there. And I guess he's going to be trying to find ways to be in peace negotiations with some of the countries that they've been having problems with. They're saying that Bangladesh's Gen Z protest is what brought down the past Prime Minister, Sheikh Hasina. So definitely it'll be interesting to see what goes on in that realm as well. Israel said to believe Hezbollah will respond before Iran to deaths of their terror chiefs. Hezbollah says targeted Israeli iron looks like Hezbollah has targeted Israelis' Iron Dome missile systems, and Hezbollah pledges to respond alone or with allies to Israeli killing of one of their commanders. So it'll be interesting to see how this all plays out. U.S. issues warning to Iran of serious risk if it carries out a retaliatory attack against Israel. So U.S. warships deployed to the Middle East as Iran fears a massive Iranian attack and all along those lines. So definitely there is definitely more tension in the Middle East and all along those lines. Uh, the veteran human rights advocate who was freed in the swap says Russia is sliding back toward Stalinist times. So that is what he is saying after having spent that time there in prison there in Russia. UK riots have been halted by police and communities, but country remains on alert. So Liverpool is sending a message to far-right rioters they'll not hear. And it looks like that'll be something that'll be in the news quite a bit in the UK. So, like I said, a number of things happen around the world and particularly around the Middle East and around Ukraine. By the way, ex-Catalonian leader Carles Puigdemont has returned to Spain and then vanishes again. So it looks like he left Spain after avoiding arrest. So Catalan separatist Puigdemont heads for Belgium after dodging arrest in Spain, according to, I believe, his own party and everything along those lines. U.S. and other ambassadors will be skipping the Nagasaki Peace Memorial over the Israel's exclusion. So G7 ambassadors are to miss the Nagasaki atomic bomb memorial after Israel was excluded. So that's some of the things that we are seeing in the news on the international scene. We'll see what we've got on the local scene as well, and then we'll see what's going on as we're here on a Friday and all along those lines. But definitely a number of things are taking place in the world, and we're just glad to be able to report them here on Pod TV and give you all a sense of what's going on in the world. Looks like the Harris and Trump will debate in September, and definitely that's something that folks are paying attention to. I believe they've agreed to 3 debates and all along those lines. So we'll see how these debates play out, but they will be taking place next month. And a decade after Mike Brown's death, his family is still calling for justice and all along those lines. So that is from the Ferguson case that took place some 10 years ago. It's hard to believe that that was 10 years ago that took place, and that launched a lot of protests around the country and all along those lines. Florida Governor Ron DeSantis continues this political attack against Harris's VP candidate. So the GOP is launching new immigration attacks on Harris, highlighting Walz's policies, and definitely Vance is still accusing Walz of stolen valor and all along those lines. So definitely a lot of things are going on in that response. And Newsom is helping to clear LA homeless encampment, vows to withhold funds from counties that don't. So Newsom clears the homeless camps in LA County where he wants more urgency. So Gavin Newsom clears the LA homeless encampments and vows a statewide crackdown and all along those lines. And Storm Debbie, which we just had a bunch of rain from and everything, is spiraling to the U.S. U.S. Northeast with forecasts of tornadoes and floods. So it looks like Debbie is threatening nearly the entire seaboard with flooding and tornadoes. So right now, I believe it's heading or moving through Maryland and heading up toward further up to the Northeast, probably like around New Jersey and New York and all along those lines. And Trump heads to Montana in a bid to oust Senator Tester after failing to topple some other folks and all along those lines. But Trump to hold a rally in Montana and Harris swing state tour continues. So definitely it'll be interesting to see how these campaigns go and all along those lines. And it looks like Habitat for Humanity helps some folks in Louisiana get homes, and now an insurance crisis may take those same homes away. So high insurance rates have prompted Louisiana lawmakers to consider tort reforms again. So that's something else that's going on in the news as Louisiana lawmakers are seeking to revive this conservative priority months ahead of the 2025 session. So definitely it'll be interesting to see what goes on in that respect. And DNA testing led to a new suspect in a Montana girl's 1996 murder. So the Gallatin County Sheriff says a 28-year-old cold case has been solved. So that's good news for that family. That some 28 years later, it looks like they have found the person that committed the crime and all along that line. So, like I said, that's just some of the news going on and all in that respect. But I'll bring in some of my fellow folks and see what they've got to say about what's going on in their world. I've got Kimberly with me. That looks like the main person I've got. So how are you doing, Kimberly? Oh, Kimberly's on the phone. So I'll just checking in with her, seeing how things are going and all along those lines. But I think it's just the two of us right now and everything. So, but she's off and she got off the news there and everything. So we'll see if anybody else joins or not. But definitely there is a number of things going on in the world and all in that way. So it looks like Trump has appeared to confuse Willie Brown with Jerry Brown. So Trump reportedly confused the former San Francisco mayor Willie Brown with Jerry Brown and all along those lines. So definitely that'll be interesting to see what folks have to say about this gaffe from the Trump camp. And of course, there are gaffes on others as well. And the Harris campaign says it doesn't support an Israel arms embargo. Harris doesn't support arms embargo on Israel, a top advisor says. And a couple of days ago in a rally in Michigan, she was interrupted by pro-Palestinian protesters and all along those lines. And satellite images are showing Maui recovering a year after deadly wildfire. So the Hawaii governor on Maui 1 year later as Maui wildfire victims wait for housing. A tiny home village sits mostly empty and everything. So it does look like they are trying to get things going in that regards as well. So definitely it'll be interesting to see what goes on as Harris and Walz head to Arizona, where a VP runner-up could still make a difference and all along those lines. So it does look like folks are going in that campaign trail and all in that way. So it'll be interesting to see what goes on there. And of course, in the past, we've talked about the Karen Read case, and the lawyers for Karen Read are to argue for dismissal of 2 charges at a hearing. So a hearing in Karen Read case is expected to focus on jury deliberations, and Karen Read returns to court as lawyers push to dismiss those murder charges that she was facing and all along those lines. So definitely it'll be interesting to see what goes on there. And Adulton trustees get a bleak financial report from former Chicago Mayor Lori Lightfoot. We've been trying to stop this. So Lori Lightfoot presents initial findings in investigation into Dalton's finances and all along those lines. So definitely a lot going on in the world, including the fact that evacuations have expanded for El Dorado County wildfire as it continues to spread. So that's something going on as well. So there are wildfires still continuing in the West Coast and all along those lines. And a new rule in Georgia could allow local election boards to refuse to certify results. So that's something else going on as well. So Georgia State Election Board Republicans order a 2020 reinvestigation, and Donald Trump is celebrating that particular case as well. And Trump and Harris are in a dead heat in poll of 7 critical battleground states. So Harris leading Trump by 6 points in one new 2024 polling, but it does look like it's a dead heat in a lot of the polls. So Wisconsin voters are weighing in on Harris and Trump and how they'll decide a key swing state. So definitely that's something going on as well. And a serial sexual assault suspect is in custody after an hour-long pursuit in Southern California. So a fugitive rape suspect who led LA police in pursuit had been on the run for a decade. So a suspect wanted for a 1989 rape of two women in the Boston area is in custody after an LA chase. So LA Police Department pursuit linked to a manhunt for suspect, and it looks like they have caught that particular individual and all along those lines. And a tornado is confirmed near Kirkwood Highway over there in Delaware. So video captures confirmed tornado as it passes by a Delaware shopping center and then all along those lines. And Texas Governor Abbott instructs hospitals to collect data on the patient's immigration status. So he's ordering folks to collect data on the patient's immigration status over there in that area. So it'll be very interesting to see what goes on in that way. If you need a lighthearted story, San Diego has two new giant pandas from China. So San Diego has debuted their first giant pandas from China in decades. So the new pandas are Yun Chun and Jin Bao. So apparently there are some new pandas if you happen to make it over there to San Diego and all along those lines. So definitely that's just some of the things that are going on in the news and all along that kind of way. So definitely a lot of things taking place, including the fact that apparently Smokey Bear is turning 80 this year. And some folks are wondering how many forest fires did he prevent and all along those lines. But they're celebrating Smokey's 80th birthday, honoring the wildlife prevention heroes and all along those lines. So definitely looks like Smokey had World War II ties and all in that way. But he is celebrating his 80th birthday and all in that kind of way. So the news was being featured on a couple of things and all along those lines. But did you know that Smokey was 80? I think I forgot he was that old. Kim and everything, but Smokey is 80, and we've got Jacoby finally joining us as well. But yeah, Smokey is 80 years old, and apparently we've got some new kind of folks that are over there in San Diego that are new cute pandas and all along those lines. So how's everybody doing?
Hi, and you know what? The wrong link, I guess, got sent out this morning. So while you were talking, I was sending out new links to everybody. So everyone, we weren't trying to cut anyone out. The links have been sent. I hope everyone got it. If you didn't, text in, and we'll try to get the link resent to you again. It could be the technology. Who knows? We've had quite the weather. Yeah, and you know, I've suffered, as you have known, from the internet constantly going in and out from the storms, flooding. My driveway has completely washed out.
Right.
So lots and lots of I don't know what the all over damage is here in North Carolina, but they seem to claim that it's going to continue through the weekend, and tornadoes.
Yeah.
Hi, Jacoby.
How's everybody doing this morning?
Doing good. How about yourself?
Doing pretty good. About to go get some breakfast.
Wow, where are you going?
Just to get some hash brown. That's all.
Okay.
Nothing super exciting.
Did that same thing. So yeah, send the link to Shaquille. Oh, there she go.
There you go. I sent a new link to everyone. I hope people get it. I have no idea what happened. In fact, I had to work real hard to find the link. But yeah, I mean, it's a good day to go get breakfast. I have a little breakfast place up the street that I like to go to, a little old-fashioned cafe. And it's cute, but the prices have gone up in the past maybe year and a half. When the eggs went up in prices, they almost doubled in their prices. So I still go to support them, but not as often. And it's probably better for my waistline, because it's easy to eat big breakfast like blueberry pancakes, French toast, fresh off the griddle, eggs, bacon, grits here in the South.
Yeah.
Hash brown.
made a whole slew of pancakes last night. So I end up, my favorite little trick with pancakes, by the way, what you want to do when you take the pancakes and do your whole batter, but add in either actually about a third of a cup to maybe even half a cup of muffin mix. Last night, what I mixed in is, while I was experimenting, there's this kind of an oatmeal crisp or a apple cinnamon crisp topping. If you take that and I added in maybe about a half a cup into the actual pancake mix, and it actually pancakes usually don't have a huge amount of flavor, and you mix in, of course, the syrup and stuff. However, when you add in this muffin mix or actually even that apple crisp mix, it adds extra flavor to the pancakes, and it pops when you add that syrup on top. So good. Wow. This is why I'm fat. I mean, I eat way too much and play too much around in the kitchen because I like experimenting and finding good food to eat.
Well, I still want to taste your mac and cheese. It just, every time you post that picture, it just makes my head spin. Looks amazing. Yeah, cooking can be a good way to de-stress. My husband always believed in that. So, and during these storms, it's always a fun way to hang out in the kitchen with the kids. And pancakes are, to me, the best way to hang out with the kids. So
no doubt about that. Well, we got Steve here with us. How you doing, Steve? What's going on in your world? Apparently I sent out a wrong link. If that's the case, my apologies.
Yeah, I apologize to everyone. I've just been so busy with work. I was supposed to go to Winston today for a county commissioners convention. I thought it was canceled, and I've got to go there with a client, so I'm leaving in a few minutes. But and I'll be on WPTF today at 3, and I'm looking forward to eventually launching this new program with Kimberly. But
I'll be listening to you today. I'll be what?
Yeah. I'll be on at 3:00. I'm actually I may just bag the Winston-Salem trip because I'm just concerned about not being in the studio. It's so much easier when you're in the studio, and I'm going to be at a convention.
When are you leaving? Because I have to go to Winston-Salem today too.
Yeah, I'm going to call my partners and see if I can take a pass because it's an hour and a half drive, and we don't even know what the cost is to get in, and it would only be to meet Nate Denny, the Deputy Secretary of Broadband. So I figure, I just don't know whether that's going to be worth it because I don't want to get there and they tell me that, you can't get in or it's $1,000 or whatever. So, but I'll be on at 3:00.
Is it a county meeting or a fundraiser?
No, it's a county commissioners annual meeting, and they're talking about broadband, and I would have loved to have gone, but I've been there all day, but just to drive up there for an hour, and then the concern is going through a Zoom or whatever, and what if those people can't, it's just so much easier when you go in the station.
Right. Is this the same broadband guy that works for the state that was at your meeting?
Yep.
Nate,
Jim
what's
Weaver,
his last name?
Denny.
Nate I need
Denny.
to talk to him. We still don't have broadband out here.
Today this will be today. Let me just do a quick warm up act.
Okay, let's do warm up.
Practice. So I mean, basically, I'm going to be talking a little bit about the today. If you tune in WPTF, but we're going to be you can go to WPTF.com anywhere around the country to get it. But we're going to talk about the path to 270 and some data that Anthony DeHart, my co-host of the show, has found about Electoral College. And so we're going to do that, and it's going to be interesting. I'm doing my preparation now in terms of like breaking it down state to state, Pennsylvania, Wisconsin, Michigan, Georgia, and what is the reality? North Carolina. How many of those do we have to win for the Democrats to take the White House? How many does Trump have to win? And it's going to be a close election. So this is going to be interesting. Everybody's still talking about the Walz selection, which I think is going to be an interesting choice. Conservative Republicans, we're really happy because he's very liberal. Democrats are happy because they believe he's got the Midwestern appeal, kind of guy you want to hunt with, fish with, have a beer with. So we'll see. It's going to be interesting. And meanwhile, the presidential debate has been agreed. Surprisingly, ABC, former President Trump has agreed, so that's going to be exciting. And I'm glad at least they're going to have a debate. I think it's important for the American people. And even though there's a lot going around the world, so much of my time has been focused on just this election, which I guess is only natural. So I don't know if there's any input you all have. Jacoby, what do you think of Walz? Do you like him?
I think Walz was a good pick. It's a smart pick because the way this election feels like a 2008 election with the energy and everything that's going on. Walz is Kamala Harris's Biden. When Obama picked Biden, that was a great pick for him. It actually, for a lot of the Democrat Party, it felt like it balanced the ticket. It seemed like it was, Biden filled the gaps that Obama had. And that's what Walz feels like with Harris.
I felt like an idiot because here's how I have all these, real quickly, the story before we go to Shaquille and Rick. So in my work, I'm a partner at a firm that does governmental relations work. And one of my partners is very involved with the Democratic Governors Association. So he was at the convention and in DC, and he told me, I can't make this reception. Can you go? And I thought it was just going to be a wine and cheese reception. And when I walk in there, all the Democratic governors are there, 14 governors, right? I was lost. Gavin Newsom eventually met me and told me to sit down, but Tim Walz was the first guy I met. And he didn't have a name badge or anything. I'd never seen him before. And he liked my Carolina Blue Jacket. So we started talking. Then we went to the bar. We got a drink. We're talking about bourbon and everything. And I felt like such an idiot. I go, so what do you do? And he goes, well, he smiled at me. He goes, I'm the governor. I go, what? He goes, yeah, I'm the governor of Minnesota. I was like, my God.
Not just
Like,
the governor, but
You
I think
can't know
the picture I showed on
everybody.
Facebook was me and him at the bar. And I tell you, he was the nicest guy you could ever meet.
Nice.
He never once even dropped his name. He was just and I feel so embarrassed. I'm like, oh my God, Governor, I'm so sorry. Don't tell my boss that I didn't know who you were. He goes, Steve, it's okay. I'm not,
What I've learned are people who are working hard and doing their job. People generally might not know who they are. It's just like at work, I had a VP come to me, and I was the only female in the company, pretty big company, but as an engineer, not as but the first and they were shaking my hand. They go, "Oh my God, I'm surprised I didn't even know who you were. I mean, you're the only." And I said, "Well, I don't want you to know who I am because of where you are. If you know who I am, I'm either screwing up or just making too much noise. I'm here to get my job done, work hard." And I think that's the problem today. Everybody thinks that you're supposed to know who the person is. And generally, if you don't, they're working very, very hard and getting the job done, which Walz does. But, look at his, career pattern. I mean, he stuck to the military for 24 years. That's a long time. And then he went in and ran for Congress when he turned in his retirement paperwork. And before he left, they were deploying to Iraq, but he had already turned all of his paperwork in, but he wrote them a letter. The letter's posted if people want to go read it. And he said, I am running for Congress, but if you need me to stay and go to Iraq, I will go and I'll do both, but I'm not giving up my running for Congress. I guess that was his dream, and he finally had the backing. He was a sergeant major, and he just, he was deployed to other places. I have family members, nephews, and everything that are both in the military, and sometimes people go from the military to the reserves. Some people just go in the reserves. Some people just go in the military. But in all of that, they never knew where they were going to get deployed or when. Both the reserves and the other. And the one in the reserves got deployed for 6 months last year. So, serving in the reserves is not a low beat. You serve your country more in the reserves. You get deployed when there are major storms and people need help. So, I mean, there's a lot to be said there. But we're going to go ahead and where did Rick go? Onto the stage. There you go, Rick. All right, go ahead, Rick.
The question for Shaq: the domestic betting markets have flipped, saying that Harris now has a better chance of getting elected than Trump. What are the international betting markets saying?
So they flipped actually on fairly substantial money. We're not talking about a few million. We're talking about tens of millions on most of the bookies. So we're talking collectively hundreds of millions of dollars have been bet. Harris took the lead by more than I was expecting her to. I was expecting to come closer, but she took the lead a few days ago. Since then, it's started to come back a little bit. So it's almost, they're almost at 50-50. She's we use decimal odds here, so it's $2.04 for her at the moment and $2.06 in the tightest markets. Now, the reason why you might think, well, hang on, one of those two has to win. The reason why there's a slight overround there is because of JFK and the very, very long shot possibility that somebody else could end up becoming the president. So you could bet on other people. But yeah, I wasn't expecting that. So a few days ago, I think she was $1.19, which is again not something that I was expecting her to get to. Big change, right? Because of a handful of weeks ago, Donald Trump was at $1.40, which would imply that he, is sitting around a 70 to 75% chance of winning. Now he's down to a less than 50% chance based on the betting markets, but also based on the polls. The poll numbers have changed. But I think when you drill down into the polls, I know I'm a little bit off your question now. When you drill down into the polls, there are some outliers which have swung the average. So there are polls, for example, that show Harris having like an 11% lead when all the other polls only show us having a 2% lead, which has swung the average. But you've also seen a few places where Trump has got like a 9% lead, where the other polls are saying that he's only got a 1 or 2% lead, which also skews the average. So I think there's going to be a lot of errors in these polls, and I think it's very, very hard to tell with any sense of certainty what's actually going to happen in your
Joe
election.
Rogan semi-endorsed RFK Jr.
Who did?
saying he's the only
Yeah,
candidate.
and conservatives are not happy about it. People like Mark Dice are not happy about it at all. Look, I think from what I'm picking up from people, they say if you vote for RFK Jr., you're throwing your vote away. I tend to think that some people might do that anyway, because it's sort of almost like a protest against both of the candidates of both the parties. But yeah, look, I think that RFK, had he have been able to run as a Democrat, probably would have done quite well. That's just my view. I know that he's not as popular with Democrats as I think he should be, but yeah, I actually think that would have been an interesting lineup, RFK Jr. versus Trump.
Well, it's not over, and David and them are going to be doing a third-party debate coming up, David Walker, and it sounds very exciting. They did a rehearsal, and or just kind of practice runs for everything, not a rehearsal with the debaters, but they are getting everything underway, and it's all very, very exciting. I would hope that they will let us broadcast it here. But everyone I talk to, including the extreme right, who would never leave Trump's side for anything, and I'm not talking, everyone tells me right now, right or left, that if there was a third party on the ticket, especially Kennedy, which I couldn't understand this, but they said if there is a third party on the ticket, they will move their vote. They are so sick and tired of the nonsense that's going on over the years between the two parties that it's become so extreme, so much hate, pandering, that they're sick of it. They are sick of the noise. And this surprised me, because some of these people I know, and I know they would never leave their ticket, their party ticket. But they literally told me if someone could put a third party up, which we don't know if there's, because these people don't watch the news or listen or research or do the data or crunch the data like we do, right? They're just not out there doing it. And so they have no idea that there could be a potential. And it's on the fence because they want a winning chance. They don't want to just throw all of their money into something. They want a winning opportunity.
I think this is one of the flaws of your system compared to ours. And I'm not saying that your system is better or worse than ours. It's different, right? So in the Australian system and the New Zealand system, and I believe it's the same for Canada, what happens is that the party that controls or has the confidence of the House, is the terminology they use, the leader of that party becomes the Prime Minister. Now, because you have a president which sits in another branch of government being the executive, it doesn't work that way for you guys. So the difference being that what you find in Australia at the moment, for example, is you find a coalition between different parties. And what that means is that if you're voting for the Green, that's a major party here in Australia, the Greens will always generally side with the Labor Party. So if the Labor Party doesn't have enough votes and enough seats in the House of Representatives to form government itself, it then has to go and make a deal with the Greens in order to get that support. Now, I'm not sure how you would do that, or how you would emulate that, given that you're directly electing a president. But certainly, just in my view, it's good to see minority parties actually be able to have some sort of say. So, for example, if RFK Jr. had 10% of the vote, I'm just making a number up. If he had 10% of the vote, then he should have sort of 10% representation, if that makes sense, because that's more democratic. That's kind of how it works in our system.
No, Shaquille, that makes sense. But the problem, and I don't know if everybody's going to agree with me, but when I see coalition building here in the U.S., it is usually like-minded coalition. So like I said, there was the Moral Monday movement that Reverend Barber had, but if you look at that, there was a lot of liberal organizations. There might have been a few moderates, but there was not a lot of reach into the conservative side of politics. And I would say the same thing happens with the conservative politics. Like even when there are some of the what some people consider MAGA or like the evangelical, I don't know that they reach enough to the other side. So I agree with you that it probably needs to
I'm not talking about movements. I'm talking about political parties. So the Greens, for example, sit to the left of the centre-left party, which is the Labor Party. And the National Party of Australia sits to the right of the centre-right party, which is the Liberal Party. So what also can happen is you can have independents that don't have any kind of party affiliation. What that means is that when you try to pass legislation through the House, if you've got a situation where you need the votes of the independents end up wielding an enormous amount of power. And so that means that they can insist on, well, I'll vote for what you want if you change this and this. Rick?
Well, in addition to the structural difficulties in the U.S., our third-party candidates usually stink. Jill Stein is kind of a charlatan. RFK Jr. is a huge liar and lunatic. John Oliver did his whole show about him on Sunday, and it went into, like, he'll go into countries and convince them not to vaccinate their people. And then they have an epidemic in the country and 83 people die.
Well, yeah, but Rick, to be fair, I mean, I know you've got a few independents. But is it Cornel West? There's another one. There's also. Hang on. Yeah, okay. Well, you've named one that's on your side. He's fine, and you've named two that aren't on your side, and they're not fine. What I'll say to you is this: if they are able to get votes, then they should have representation. Is basically the thesis or the premise as to why they're represented in our politics. You having an issue with them isn't really the issue at hand. It's do they have enough of a vote? And also, because you've got the electoral college system as opposed to the majority of the House, if, for example, you had a situation where Republicans and Democrats controlled 52% of the House and 48% of the House, what that, of course, would mean is because the margin's so thin, if somebody crosses the floor, which means they vote for the other side, you may not get your policies passed. So that does happen at a House level, but of course it doesn't happen at the executive level. So I'm just saying that could be something.
But I mean, there are decent candidates, but it's just weird and unproductive. Gary Johnson, I think, was like a reasonable. Bill Weld at some point. Ralph Nader was, I mean, you kind of agree with him politically, but he was an a-hole because he acted as a spoiler. We're not set up for this.
So what I don't understand is, what I don't understand is that when you're talking about third party, okay, in Canada, there are three parties. One of them, New Democratic Party, has no chances to win election ever. But they're getting enough votes to form a coalition. Right now, they're in coalition with Liberals, and that's why Liberals winning election after election. But I think their run is coming to an end anyway. But in the United States, the third party doesn't matter who is going to head it or so on. There is no way that there could be some kind of coalition with one of the two major parties. It's just not in cards. There is no mechanism to accomplish that. So therefore, it's such a waste of time, money, energy, of everybody who is discussing seriously the third party candidate, it's a complete rubbish.
Sasha, that may be the case at a presidential level. I will just say, though, that if you have got third-party or independent candidates that are able to get a seat in the House or, hey, get a Senate position, which is extremely rare in the United States, well, that does change things a little bit, because if it's very, very close and they need those votes, and those people can start to influence the policy of the majority party.
Yeah, we're already seeing
as they do in Canada.
Yeah, we've already seen that with some people that have dropped out and become independents. I think Manchin is one of those, and everything. And even like you're saying, Shaquille, there have been third-party candidates that have won in places. We're talking about Tim Walz, the governor of Minnesota. One of the other governors of Minnesota was actually from the wrestling world, and he was a third-party candidate, that being Jesse Ventura and everything. But he was definitely a third-party candidate. But Jacoby, you were trying to say something?
So this is kind of system is, the irony of it is that we have two monopolies on the political system. We have the Democrat Party and the Republican Party, and it's always been that way. Those two major systems, what ends up happening, you have those movements or those coalitions that I think Mark was alluding to. And Shaq, yes, our system is completely different because of the two monopolies that we have. The Occupy Wall Street, for example, that became a movement. There was a tax movement. I can't remember the name right now.
Nope.
But it ended up being swallowed whole by the Democrat and the Republican Party. And so they just got co-opted. Yeah, it would be great to have those separate parties that were similar to what you're talking about, having that representation separately. But what we end up doing is, because of our bipartisan system or the two-party system, those two parties swallow up any potential candidates that have any type of backing behind them. And it's true that all the parties right now, the Green parties and stuff like that Rick was talking about, truly don't have candidates that are able to crack anything. They are seen as fringe candidates because they don't grab anybody. They're not going to grab any huge potential people. And to get back to our bipartisan setup, on the Democrat side, there's so much energy and all the unification happening around Kamala Harris. But in terms of the Republican side, there is a canary in the coal mine, which we aren't listening to, because I think there's a lot more being missed. How we talked about, there were a few people that on the extreme right-wing side that have said that they're going to write somebody else in besides Trump. For example, Kyle Rittenhouse legitimately went on Twitter, made a video and everything saying that he's never voting for Trump. He got attacked by the MAGA wing of his party and went silent, and then turned around and said, I'm now going to vote for Trump. So I think there are a lot of fractures that are out there that we're not listening to. And this is not just on the Republican side. This is what happened to Biden. And the reason why Biden got pushed out by the Democrats is because there was a big call for him being removed. And because that happened, there's an energy on that side that I don't think that have ever accounted for. And I think that's an issue. But yes,
speaking of that energy, I have seen a couple of the commercials from the Trump campaign, and it seems like they're trying to flip that energy on its edge, because they are trying to tease Vice President, now presidential candidate Harris, for her laugh. There's even been a couple of things where they're doing that kind of like while Rome burns, Nero fiddles kind of attitude, where they're showing her dancing and doing other things. That is that energy that you're talking about, but they're claiming that she's missing the boat while she's on other issues like the border and on other things. So it seems like they're targeting some of the legitimate issues like immigration and even abortion and other things, and saying that she's too busy dancing and creating this energy that you have been praising and everything. Because I've seen that commercial now a couple of times where they are attacking her lighthearted side and everything. So will that work or will it not work?
I don't think that's going to work. I think they have to stop attacking her and put forth a future around what they're complaining about, around the economy, and around immigration. Trump, for his press conference last night, instead of saying the same repeated thing that he said in 2016 and 2020, the same doom and gloom, he's got to change the narrative of, we're going to the future of things. This is what my economy will do, instead of, hey, we need to hate them because they're going to create World War III or World War IV, and they have to get out of that notion and back to focusing on the issues. There was one thing that they missed the boat on as well. When the stock market tanked earlier and dropped so many points, they were so quick to put out an ad that said, well, we're going to call it the Kamala crash. And now the economy is back. The stock market bounced back. So that's going to backfire on them. So again, they're missing the boat and trying hard to come up with something, but they've got to, if they could focus heavily on, hey, where we're winning on the economy. You trust us on the economy. This is what we're going to bring forth on the economy. Oh, you trust us on immigration. This is what we're going to bring forth on immigration. And if they get back to that, I think it's going to flip the polls again. And we're going to have a much, back to that whole 50-50, or Trump is going to take the lead again because of focusing heavily on the economy.
Rick? I don't hear you, Rick.
We can't hear you, Rick.
Okay, sorry. I'm in a flight path, so planes go by, make a ton of noise. But anyway, if you can get Trump to focus on the right stuff, yeah. But he's hard to keep. Anyway, the gimmicky attacks, the stolen valor, the fucking a couch, the drinking horse semen, all that stuff, I don't think works on independent voters very well. It only makes people whose vote is already decided, the MAGAs on the one side, the lefties on the other side, go crazy cheering for their people or against their enemies. I don't know that the gimmicks flip votes. Shaq, what do you think? Do gimmicks flip votes?
They can, but they can. I think that the system in America is just, it's so far divided that people just don't see things the same way. Jacoby's given some analysis there about what Republicans should do, but remember that many of the things the Republicans are talking about, like, for example, stolen valor, plays to their base, and then their base goes and talks about it with other people. They're playing a lot. The Kamala Harris saying, I can't remember what she says. This moment is about the future, unburdened by what happened in the past, or whatever the quote is that she says. They're playing that on a loop because she said it so many times in so many different settings. Look, is that effective or not? I don't know. I think that what Republicans are trying to do is they're trying to say that this is an extremely left-wing ticket, and it's run by somebody who was inept as a VP, who doesn't give great speeches, who doesn't really say very much for substance. And so therefore we, the Republicans, are better. The Democrats, I think, are saying, look, Republicans are coming out with all these fanciful ideas. They might be good on a couple of issues, but they are very uncaring about others. And they're not articulating on the things that they're good at, what they're actually going to do. So I think at the moment, Democrats have backed off on some of the pettiness. But also remember that we have just gone through, all over the world, we have just gone through now for 8 years, hearing that Donald Trump's Hitler, hearing that he's a dictator, hearing that he's this terrible person. So I think that it's not reasonable to expect that they're not going to hit back a little bit. So look, again, I think it'd be nice to see your country's leaders and potential leaders actually focusing on the real issues. Just lastly, if I can just come back to the issue of bipartisanship and a two-party system. Most countries in the Western world have a two-party system or a two-party preferred system. I don't think that is in and of itself the cause of the issue. Certainly it is as far as the presidency is concerned, but I don't think that's the issue for the House and the Senate. I personally, not living in your country, and I'm not really sure how this would work, but I personally would like to see third-party candidates be able to have a little bit more influence in your political system, because I think it would be more encompassing of the very, very diverse viewpoints on a number of issues, and especially when you've got a country of 330 million or 350 million, whatever it is. So,
what do you say to what Carter has got to say? Because Carter has said, and I did see your hand, Jacoby, that he's never seen a country with a two-party system work. Too many people slip through the gaps to have everybody represented, and that is part of what it goes on even here. Even what I mentioned about Gavin Newsom and a lot of people that are in that kind of like porous situation, or that situation that they aren't feeling like they're represented, whether that's the severe poor or whether that's other people that are feeling unrepresented for whatever reason.
This is also a reason why gerrymandering, I think, is such a big issue, and especially in North Carolina, where gerrymandering was really sort of rolled out, right, as you guys would attest to. Look, I think that is an issue, and I think, packing and cracking division, what do you call them, electoral divisions, whatever you call them, in their constituencies. That's not great. I think that there should be a way that people's viewpoints are proportionally represented. And again, because your system of electors when it comes to the president is so different, it's hard to really get a feel for it. But like so, for example, if we take California, where you've got around 40% of the population are Republicans, why shouldn't they have 40% of the power in California? Right now, look, there are flaws to this. I will point that out as well. So when you have a system like we have in Australia or New Zealand, it's even more pronounced, where you could have 80 or 90% of the population have voted one way or voted in these particular ways, but 10% of the votes are needed, and it's the party that has 10% that can dictate to the majority party what needs to happen. So that can disproportionately put power in minority hands. But look, what's the solution? I don't know. I don't think anyone can really, say we absolutely 100% know what the solution is. But certainly, I think it's worth exploring that. I think America, if the people in America really want change and they really want to see, things happen differently in the future, I think that having a look at your electoral system and reforming it would be a really good place to start. It'll never happen, but it's a nice thought.
Yeah, it's a nice thought and everything. We got somebody that is one of the leaders of the network that has joined us, Nick Palveda, but he's apparently got the solution of leaving to go to Spain as his way to
Steve Rao is backstage as well. I'm not sure if you've noticed.
I did not notice that, so thank you for telling me that and everything. So we'll get Steve back on as well. Matter of fact, I had a question for Steve since you brought up gentrification. What are the county commissioners going to be dealing with, as far as you know? Because I know a lot of counties are dealing with stuff, and not whether it's here in North Carolina or even around the country, whether that's gentrification, whether that's homelessness, whether that's a number of other issues. So what are, and you mentioned the broadband, but what are the main issues that the county commissioners are going to be focusing on this convention that we're going to?
So if I said gentrification, I meant to say gerrymandering if I said gentrification.
No, I guess, and I'm going to probably not be going. I just decided it's going to be an hour and a half trip to go meet a secretary and come back. But the topic that I was going to go to was a very interesting topic on broadband. And basically, North Carolina has deployed about $1 billion of funding for broadband connectivity in North Carolina. Since Biden has been in office, there's now 800,000 North Carolinians that have access to broadband. There's also the BEAD program and programs to help small businesses and also those that traditionally have not been a part of the online world. And so it's pretty exciting stuff. The challenge that they have right now, the deputy secretary that's in charge of this is Nate Denny, and the problem that they're having is that they're not going to fund the Affordable Connectivity Program. So they don't have a lot of time left before this administration is up and before the fall to get the rest of North Carolina up to speed. But it's interesting that we don't talk enough about this during the campaign. I don't hear Vice President Harris talking much about, some of the things. That's why I thought Roy Cooper would have been a good nominee for North Carolina, because as the governor, he could talk.
Can I tell you something very quickly? So I've got to buy a new laptop, and I found a laptop which I absolutely love. It's called the Lenovo 9i, something run with dual screens, and it's just perfect for me because I travel and it's light and all this sort of stuff. But I also had the opportunity to spend a couple of hours with Copilot, and I've already started to learn a bit about ChatGPT after a conversation with Rick and Toby some weeks ago. And this is going to change my life. I can see that right now. It allows me to do things and to do data analytics, which would have taken me such a long period of time before, or that I wouldn't have bothered to do before. Absolutely incredible technology. I don't understand why in a wealthy country like the United States, or here in Australia when we have this issue, why we are not able to provide, decent level of internet to everybody. And especially now that you've got that Starlink stuff. I was in the middle of outback Australia, in the middle of absolutely nowhere. You can't get mobile phone reception, but you can get a Starlink internet service for a relatively cost-effective price. I really think that's important. I think that if you're growing up in the West, or really anywhere in the world, but especially if you're growing up in the West, not having access to technology, not having access to the internet, and all of the great tools that advances in technology can give you is going to leave you behind. And that's why I'm such a proponent of including these sorts of subjects at school, right? Don't worry about gender studies and the LGBT stuff. Put computer programming in there and put financial literacy in there, and I think you'll get a much stronger generation.
Well, ask Nick about that, because Nick is not a big fan of internet for all. He told me that several times.
Nick, I think you've got something wrong with your microphone, because we're hearing, what we're hearing is like some
voice going on, Nick. Nick, you got that funny voice going on.
Yeah, no, we can't understand what you're saying. It's just digital distortion, Nick.
Nick, you sound like a drunk Kermit the Frog. Just to point out, the reason I like the Walls pick over a Cooper pick, just to answer your question, Steve, is because Walls speaks to where we need to talk to. We're always the people. The Democrat Party always speaks at this high level, wanting to talk about nuanced things and say these things that not everybody's going to easily pick up on and easily understand. Our electorate and our elections are down to bumper stickers. If you can get it on a bumper sticker or a T-shirt, people get it quickly, and people follow those taglines. People follow the funny little quips, and that's what garners people quickly. Throwing a Cooper on there and having him discuss and give the high level understanding of what the broadband would do, because I in complete agreement with Shaq on how he discussed broadband for all. I'm in complete agreement with that. But we do this on a regular basis normally. We talk about these things on this high level normally. The individual, that normal everyday guy or everyday woman who's sitting down in the country or in a rural town or even in the city, who's too busy to follow that's not what they want to hear. They give me something quick that I need to hear and I need to know, and it's going to make me it's going to draw me to you. Give me that.
We've got 90 seconds. Can we go to break and make?
No,
we've got 90 seconds.
We haven't seen it. We've only seen a little bit of it.
I don't know. Am I still sounding like Donald Duck?
You sound.
You're good now.
Okay. You liberal left people. Internet for all. Everybody doesn't get caviar, shrimp, and Copper River salmon. If you want it, you pay for it. It's not a government function to provide internet for all, period, the end. Especially a government like your government, which I'm talking about the United States, not Australia, is broke. So because you're broke, if you want internet, you pay for it. It's not a government function.
I've got the perfect
support.
I've got the perfect solution to that.
Yeah,
I'm going to debate you on that next week. I disagree.
Steve, I've got the solution. I've got the solution for you for that. You've got to build roads, right? You've got to build roads anyway. You don't not build them in rural areas, right? Okay. So here's what I'll say. Instead of having government provide the service, incentivize private corporations to provide services
No, you don't
by giving them full tax deductions, or giving them multiples of a tax deduction if they roll something out into an area where it's going to cost them money, or take the restrictions off on people who can provide the service. Because I'm pretty bloody sure that, and I've had this conversation with Kimberly, that if I and Kimberly got together and said we're going to fix this, it'd be fixed and we'd be able to make a profit if we weren't bullied by the larger groups or regulated out of it.
That I would agree to. Remove the government on all their stupid restrictions and let private industry go ahead and build it, but do not do government subsidies. Government.
I didn't say so. No, but let them have a tax write-off. Let them have an immediate tax write-off, or let them have a multiple, or let them do it immediately instead of having to deduct it over a period of time.
I don't mind the tax write-offs, but the government should not be funding this stuff. Your government is broke. The problem with the United States, they're so bloody stupid.
So Nick, I take it that on Monday you're going to be with me when I say to our very good friend David M. Walker that when you have a social security system which is not working,
it's broke.
Get rid of it. Keep the obligations, honor the obligations, because you have to do that. Don't make other people have to pay into a system that's not working, and privatize it. Let the private market take care of it.
Well, they're going to have to reform it anyway. As a matter of fact, we're going to be consulting apparently with the states of.
But they're not. There's no proposed reform. There is no proposed reform that I have heard of from anybody, left, right, or otherwise, for your social security system, which comes close to fixing the problem. The reforms that have been proposed is, let's increase the age that you need to be before you're entitled to receive it.
Right.
Let's reduce the benefits that you're going to get, and let's increase the amount you've got to pay into it.
They have to. I mean,
okay. So let me ask you this question, Nick. If you weren't American, if you were in my position, you're a dual citizen, you can live in over 40 countries around the world, legally live in over 40 countries around the world. I have multiple passports. And you can pick anywhere. Would you pick the United States exactly. But would you pick the United States to be, like, you can live in the US without being a citizen. But what I mean is, like, would you pick there to go and pay into the system? Of course not. No. Why would you? And I hate saying that because I have so much love and admiration and respect for your country. I just don't have any love, respect, or admiration for your politicians.
No,
and what they have created is an absolute bloody mess.
They do a lot of things right here, but unfortunately, they do a lot of things wrong here. One is the violent crime issue is out of control. And
well, look at what's happening, and have a look at what's happening in the UK now. You know, so Malaysia.
Toby's shaking his head, but he's never lived in Morocco and he's never lived in Spain.
I'm just saying that the violent crime has actually gone down.
Oh yeah. So rather than having 1 million people, you have 990,000 people killed.
No, I'm just saying that violent crime statistically is going down.
To Toby, it's not even close to Morocco and Spain. Not even close. Okay,
that's a poor argument. Do you live in Morocco or Spain?
Yeah, go look.
Yeah, he's moving to Spain, dude. Like, he's moving to Spain.
But you're arguing that it's not like if we can agree on the statistics that the violent crime rate has gone down, then if it's gone down, then why are we saying it's out of control? If they're actually having it go down, isn't that something we should be cheering for?
It goes down from 100 times the violent crime rate of Morocco to 99 times the violent crime rate of Morocco. That's not in control. Come on.
But if you are saying that, but that is, again, that's a poor argument, Nick. Nick, you're making a very disingenuous poor argument.
You're not even willing to admit that the United States is 100 times more violent crime than Spain.
Nick, hold on. You're making a poor argument. You're complaining. Nick, can two things be correct at the same time? Can two things be correct at the same time? Yes or no? Can two things be correct at the same time, Nick? Violent crime can still be high in comparison to Morocco and Spain, But violent crime in the U.S. is going down.
I do not answer simple-minded questions.
You have a
He answered your question before. If the crime rate has gone up and then it has come down a bit, that's like saying to me,
No. Wait.
You should move to Scandinavia. Hang on, just let me finish, please. That would be like saying to me, you should move to California, right, and pay 60% tax. And then California says, oh, look, I've reduced it from 60% to only 55%. And then you say, well, Shaquille, you should celebrate because, look, the tax rates are coming down. No, I'm not okay with that.
So
yes,
you're
the crime
saying
rate went up and then they came down a bit.
Shaq, when did it go up?
When did what go up?
When did violent crime go up?
The U.S. It's progressively been high.
It's gone up dramatically over the last 4 years. It went up dramatically after George Floyd.
That is wrong. Violent crime has actually been going down for the past, matter of fact, since Bush was. So it has been going down for a while. It is actually lower under Biden and has always been lower under Biden than it was under Trump. Trump had it lower under him than it was up under Obama. The violent crime has been going down.
That's not correct. That's not correct.
Do you want me to bring up the statistics and the facts?
That's not correct. I
am speaking a fact. I am speaking a fact.
Still high.
Now he won't let us speak.
Okay.
I am speaking a fact. You're arguing that. Oh well, it is. No,
you haven't even heard what we're going to say. You haven't even heard what we're going to say. So you've said that something's a fact. Can we respond to it, or are you just going to keep repeating that it's a fact?
Go ahead, respond, and give me your proof.
Thank you very much. Well, I'm on my phone, so I'm not sitting there Googling stuff in the background like you are, Jatovi.
Oh, dear Lord, then shut up. Then don't give me your incorrect facts. Nick is on a computer. Nick, please speak and prove me wrong.
Good. So why do we need to bring something up?
That's the thing.
To be allowed
I am telling you a fact, and you're going to argue with me. I cannot look it up right now. Don't tell me that I'm wrong.
Can't even express a viewpoint. I
am telling you a fact, but you
don't even know what I'm going to say yet.
I don't deal with that. I don't deal with that. I'm sorry, Nick. Look up the facts, please. Tell me, has violent crime gone down?
Here's the fact. Here's the fact. U.S. violent crime is 6 to 10 times more than Spain. End of story. We'll see you tomorrow.
No, I'm asking.